Welcome to Dabsy Stories. Drop a like on the video and subscribe so we can continue making videos like this one. The evening sun had slipped behind the hedges when my daughter Lily and her friend Mia slipped out to cool off in our community pond. It was a warm summer night. Fireflies danced above the water's edge. I called Lily for dinner, but she didn't answer. My heart skipped a beat as I rushed outside. At the pond, I found two men in dark jackets labeled HOA Enforcement, wrestling Lily under the surface. Her legs kicked wildly. Mia screamed, pounding one man's arm. He yanked Lily deeper. The other held his foot on her friend's chest to keep her from helping. "No!" I screamed, sprinting forward. I grabbed Lily's ankle, yanking her free just as her face slipped beneath the murky water. She coughed and sputtered, eyes wide with terror. Mia sobbed, wrapping her arms around Lily's shoulders. The two attackers spun on me, faces masked in anger. "Stay back, homeowner," one snarled, tugging on Lily's jacket. "Rules are rules." The other swung a baton at my head. I barely ducked, and the stick cracked against a tree branch. My hands shook as I dragged Lily to shore. Her hair clung to her face, water dripping from her chin. "Mom, it was them," she stammered. I held her, breathing hard, as neighbors poured out of their homes at the commotion. The faux officers snarled orders. "Disperse!" But the crowd closed in. I yanked off one man's jacket. Underneath, a logo linked him to the HOA treasurer's private security detail. The other dropped a forged badge. Within minutes, real police sirens wailed. Officers tackled the two to the ground and slapped cuffs on their wrists. Detectives arrived, taking statements from Lily, Mia, and witnesses who had heard Lily's screams echo across the night. Under the floodlights, Lily huddled in my arms, trembling but alive. The men were led away, still protesting their right to enforce pond hours and youth curfew. I ran my fingers through Lily's hair. "You're safe now," I whispered. At the station, Detectives Cruz and Lee laid out the charges: attempted murder, child endangerment, impersonation of law enforcement, and conspiracy. Their HOA pay stubs and emails ordering extreme measures to keep teens in line painted a chilling picture of entitlement run mad. When Lily fell asleep that night, wrapped in her blanket, I sat at her bedside. I pressed her hand. "No more monsters," I vowed. "I'll see justice done." Outside, the pond lay calm, betraying nothing of the violence it had held. The next morning, I received word. The HOA treasurer, board president, and security captain had been arrested and denied bail. They now faced life sentences if convicted. As I watched Lily practice her first swim since the attack, arms steady, eyes bright, I felt a fierce relief. The pond was hers again. The next morning, the pond looked innocent beneath gray clouds. Lily refused to go near the water's edge. I sat beside her on the swing, wiping ragged tears from her cheeks. Mia knelt beside her, clutching a hand mirror so Lily could comb out tangles. Their laughter from yesterday felt impossible now. Detective Cruz arrived with new evidence. He placed a blood-stained HOA badge on my lap. "We found this in Carter's old patrol bag," he said. "It belonged to your fake cop, but look at the engraving on the back." I tilted the badge. Engraved in tiny letters, "Property of Karen Peterson, HOA president." My blood ran cold. Karen Peterson, our polite, well-dressed HOA president, had given orders to drown my daughter. Cruz continued. "We traced emails from her account. She urged her security team to escalate enforcement of the curfew for teens. She said no quarter for rule breakers." That's when Lieutenant Shaw jumped in. He laid out phone logs, calls between Karen and the two attackers, Davis and Holt, in the hours before the pond attack. My hands shook. I had thought the fake officers acted alone. Now the plot twist hit me. The entire HOA board had sanctioned violence to keep teenagers off community property, and Karen led them. That afternoon, I drove Lily and Mia to the police station. Lily sat in her booster seat, face pale but determined. "They'll go to prison, right?" she asked. I hugged her. "They will, and Karen will too." Inside, Karen sat in an interrogation room, makeup smudged. I watched through the one-way glass as Cruz confronted her with the badge and emails. She stared at the table, silent. Then she looked up, tears glistening. I wanted control," she whispered. "I was afraid the kids would ruin our property values. I didn't mean for Lily to almost die." Cruz's voice was cold. "You conspired to commit attempted murder. You endangered a child. Those are years in prison." As I wheeled Lily past the room, she peered in. Karen's face crumpled. Mia waved, and Karen mouthed, "I'm sorry." But Lily only nodded and looked away. That evening, the news broke. Karen Peterson, HOA president, arrested and charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and impersonation of law enforcement. Davis and Holt faced life sentences for child endangerment and assault. The HOA treasurer, Mr. Larkin, was next, indicted for financing the fake security force. Back home, I tucked Lily into bed. Her blankets smelled of lavender, her favorite scent. She clenched her teddy bear. "Will I ever swim again?" she asked, voice small. I brushed her hair. "Yes, sweetheart. We'll make the pond safe again." Over the following days, neighbors held a community meeting in the park. Chairs formed a circle under string lights. Several board members offered apologies. Mr. Chen, once an ally of Karen's policies, stood and said, "I vow to never let fear rule our home again." Others nodded, voices firm. Mia's mother presented a petition, ban private patrol forces, and require all HOA decisions to be transparent. 200 signatures were collected in hours. One morning, a package arrived at our door. Inside was a bracelet inscribed, "Brave as Lily." No note. I showed it to Lily, whose eyes lit up. "Someone supports me," she whispered. I squeezed her hand. That night, I found Karen's mugshot on the TV news. Counselors said she tried to drink bleach in her cell. I felt no pity, only relief that she could no longer hurt anyone. Her image faded as the anchor moved to happier headlines about the community garden replanting. As autumn leaves fell, Lily took her first steps with new confidence. The pond's edge now bore safety rails and life rings. Mia and Lily splashed in the shallow end under my watchful eye. One evening, I sat by the pond and watched their silhouettes. The water rippled golden. I whispered, "You're free now," and Lily smiled back, strong and brave. 2 weeks after Karen Peterson's arrest, our street felt charged with both relief and outrage. The pond's edge had been cordoned off for safety improvements. New railings, warning lights, life rings mounted on posts. Yet no barrier could erase the memory of Lily's terrified face as she struggled beneath the water's surface. That afternoon, I wheeled Lily and her friend Mia to the community center for a public hearing on HOA reform. The hall buzzed with neighbors clutching petitions and planning to testify. I pushed Lily up the ramp. She dipped her hand in the fountain pool beside the entrance, its spray a gentle reprieve. Inside, the long table held the remaining board members, 3 women and 2 men, all pale with guilt. I joined fellow parents in the gallery. As the hearing opened, one by one, families recounted fears and abuses. Seniors threatened over sidewalk cracks, renters harassed over grass height, children chased off play spaces. Then came Lily's turn. When called, she rose from her wheelchair, back braced but spirit unbroken. She held the microphone with both hands. "I was scared," she said, voice trembling. "They tried to drown me because I rode my bike near the gate at dusk. They said I was breaking rules. Now they sit in prison." She paused, tears glistening. "I want this never to happen again to any kid." The room hushed. Mia stepped forward. "I tried to help her," she said. "They pressed me under too. We survived together." Neighbors wiped eyes as children in the front row clutched parents' hands. Next, I took the podium. Karen Peterson and her fake officers nearly killed my daughter. They answered to a treasurer who funded violence. This wasn't a one-time lapse. It was a culture of fear. I slammed the table lightly. "It ends now." I presented a reform package, a civilian oversight committee to approve any security contracts, a zero-tolerance policy for unauthorized enforcement, harsher vetting of board members, and mandatory community safety training for all HOA staff. I handed copies to each board member. These measures will rebuild trust. Board President Ortiz, once Karen's ally, looked down. We agree to these reforms," she stammered. "No more private security. All decisions will be transparent with quarterly audits." A murmur of approval swept the room. Just as the vote neared, a hush fell. Detective Cruz entered, holding a thick file. "Evidence of a deeper conspiracy," he announced. "Emails show Karen coordinated with Larkin and Morales to target families who questioned tax increases. This was financial extortion." He laid out damning communications. An insurance bid padded to funnel HOA surplus into private accounts, forged meeting minutes mandating strict patrols. The hall erupted in shock. Plot twist. Among the emails, one addressed Operation Pond Sweep was signed not only by Karen, but also by 2 sitting board members, Ortiz and Johnson, ordering the drownings. Gasps and cries filled the hall as those names were read. Ortiz's face went ashen. Johnson sank in his chair, mouth open. cruise continued. Ortiz and Johnson are under arrest for conspiracy and attempted murder. Uniformed officers in the back moved to cuff them. Ortiz tried to speak, but no words emerged. Johnson raised trembling hands in surrender. Neighbors cheered, some wept, as all 4 conspirators were led away. The board table stood empty, 5 seats vacated by perpetrators of terror. The hearing adjourned amid applause and embraces. Outside, Lily inhaled the summer air, free now of the shadow that once threatened her life. Mia skipped beside her, humming a tune. I watched them, pride and relief washing over me. That evening, we returned to the pond. The new safety railings gleamed under lantern light. Lily dipped her toes into the shallow water, giggling. Mia joined, and they splashed gently. I stood at the edge, heart light. Neighbors gathered on the lawn with lemonade and cookies, celebrating the community's rebirth. A banner overhead read, "Safety and Solidarity." Children's laughter echoed where once panic reigned. As dusk fell, Lily crawled onto my lap. "You did it, Mom," she whispered. I kissed her hair. "We all did, sweetheart." In that moment, I saw our neighborhood healed, its once violent heart replaced by vigilance, compassion, and justice. No further monsters lurked at the water's edge. Only the promise that entitled power, once used to drown a child, would never again go unchecked. Weeks after the dramatic arrests at the community hearing, our neighborhood settled into cautious peace. The pond's new safety railings and emergency phones stood sentinel where horror once lurked. Yet I couldn't shake the memory of Lily's glassy eyes beneath the water. Justice had been served, but healing took time. One crisp autumn morning, I wheeled Lily to her first day at the redesigned summer camp program. No barricades, only open fields and volunteers trained in water safety. Mia skipped beside her, her crutches replaced by steady legs. Parents gathered at the fence, offering waves and smiles. I stayed behind, eyes on the new Civilian Oversight Committee meeting in the community center, now chaired by Mrs. Alvarez, a fierce advocate for survivors. Inside, community leaders voted to dissolve the old HOA board entirely, replacing it with a democratically elected council answerable to every resident. Attendance soared as people reclaimed their shared spaces from fear. The meeting ended with unanimous approval for permanent bans on private security forces, a safeguard born of Lily's terror. That evening, news broke from the State Department of Corrections. Davis, Holt, and the board members, Karen Peterson, Ortiz, and Johnson, were being transferred into permanent segregation at Central Penitentiary. Their behavior in general population had been volatile and unrepentant. Now, under strict starve time protocols, they would face days of restricted diets and isolation whenever they refused mandated therapy or work assignments, a taste of the fear they once imposed. Plot twist. The warden's office uncovered that Karen, in solitary, had attempted to orchestrate a second attack, this time on Mia's foster mother, by smuggling contraband cell phones to coordinate with an external accomplice. The contact was traced to a private investigator she hired, still loyal to Karen's warped sense of entitlement. This confirmed that her remorse was a facade. Her threat endured behind bars. At my house that night, I read the state's press release to Lily and Mia as they knelt by the fireplace. Flames danced on the mantel where photos of happier days hung. Lily's first swim, Mia's birthday. I handed each girl a copy of the order revoking Karen's parole eligibility and imposing lifetime supervision. Lily's hands trembled as she traced the words, "No possibility of parole for offenses against minors." "I'll never see her outside again?" Lily asked softly. I hugged her. "Never," I replied. "She'll spend her days behind those walls just as she deserves." The next morning, I led a volunteer team to plant marigold seeds around the pond, a symbol of resilience. As the sun rose, children in bright jackets scattered seeds along the fence line. I watched Lily toss her handful, eyes bright with purpose. Later, on the front steps of the newly opened Community Unity Hall, I unveiled a bronze plaque reading, "In memory of courage underwater, Lily and all children protected here." Neighbors applauded. Lily and Mia stood beside me, their smiles triumphant. Under the autumn sky, the pond's surface reflected amber leaves and a sense of hard-won safety. That night, I checked my phone. A news alert noted Karen's attempted second conspiracy and the state's swift tightening of contraband policies. She would remain in solitary starve time indefinitely for each refusal to comply, a harsh but necessary discipline. As I tucked Lily into bed, she hugged her plush frog tight. "Mom, they'll remember me every time they're hungry," she said. I kissed her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart. You changed everything." Outside, the pond's gentle ripple whispered of new beginnings. Inside, our home glowed with warmth and the knowledge that entitled cruelty, once unleashed at water's edge, now rotted behind steel and stone, starved of mercy, held to account, and unable to harm another child. The end.